As a leader, you're expected to make high stakes decisions. But what happens when you're not an expert in the topic at hand? Welcome to What Leaders Need to Know, the show that helps you uncover hidden blind spots, ask the right questions, and think like an expert without becoming one. I'm Todd Genetasio, and in every episode, I bring you world class expertise to simplify complex topics, break down decision making frameworks, and give you the clarity that you need to lead with confidence. Today's guest, I am super excited about. He is a friend in full transparency, my personal coach. He is a retired Olympic speed skater who learned firsthand that success isn't just about talent, but it's also about mindset. After missing the Olympics 3 times, he discovered the mental shifts and strategies that set top achievers apart, ultimately winning an Olympic medal, and now helping entrepreneurs and business leaders like you with unlocking your next level of success. Jason is here to share how you can Olympify your business and life by mastering your thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. Man, Jason, it is seriously such an honor to have you join us on this show. Um, I am very grateful for you taking the time here and sharing your expertise. So, talk to us about your role post Olympics. So you have this amazing, Olympic experience that I kind of touched on there and what you learned, and then you took that and transitioned it into helping people in business and in life in general. So, you know, tell us how you got started in that transition.
Thanks. First of all, thanks Todd for having me here. It's exciting to be here. Obviously, anytime we get a chance to chat, I always love it.
And
And
selfishly, I need more. I want more people getting access to you. So this is my first baby step in getting you out more to the world. So
yeah, and I appreciate that big time. Yeah, it was quite it's been quite the journey. Like I started like coaching when I was 12 years old. So I've been coaching for 37 years.
phew.
And it's like, one of the things that I really truly realized is that throughout our lives and throughout our careers, is that just how impactful coaches can be on our journeys. Looking back through like my competitive career, I can pick out like a number of really pivotal moments in my whole life that actually of how coaches really had shaped the trajectory and helped me to be able to achieve far more than I thought possible. And so since I had been coaching right from a young age, I was coaching athletes at the time, and then later on throughout my career, I got into personal training and obviously health and nutrition. I was a nutrition coach as well, and just always had a passion for business and helping people. And so a lot of people were kind of surprised when I decided to go uh, the route that I've gone with helping business owners, and as opposed to continuing in sport, uh, because of the fact that coming from the athletic background. But I think a big part of the reason why I went that way was actually is kind of a big component of my story was a lesson that I really needed to learn. And that's one thing that I'm sure that, any business owners, any of you that are listening to this, I'm sure that one thing that you'll find is that there's a lot of things that we learn in the process. And so one thing that I wanted to actually, is it okay if I kind of share a bit of a story?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So you mentioned that I'd missed the Olympics 3 times, so that's like a 12-year time frame. And I didn't just miss them, I was the alternate for 4 different events over those three Olympics. And uh, it wasn't until and I actually one of those Olympics I was ranked third in the world prior to that. So it was really challenging to not be participating. Obviously. So, but looking back, what I realized in my last year was I realized that I started reflecting, just like a lot of you business owners, you probably reflect on where you kind of come from, and where you are now. I came to this breaking point where I almost quit my sport in my last Olympic year, and I had like a full on breakdown. We've been training so hard, we've been doing so much, we've been putting in so many hours, and I'm sure some of your business owners can relate to that, putting in a lot of
Yeah.
hours and time, and things maybe not going the way that you wanted. And I was just at this point where I was like, I was so tired, I was so um, mentally, physically, emotionally exhausted. I just finished 2 training camps, and I was supposed to pack my bag, and I was supposed to leave and go to another training camp. And I just had this feeling like all of a sudden it just kind of hit me like a wall. I was just so tired and I just couldn't bring myself to put any clothes in that bag that I needed to leave. And I came to this point where because I was so tired and so exhausted, I thought that, maybe I just thought that I maybe I couldn't go on anymore because it was just like I'd given all that I had left to give. And I'd had so many failed experiences previous and so many challenges that I just didn't know if I could keep going. And I just like all came to this point where it's like, I've had this amazing career. I've won all these, World Cup and World Championship medals. I'd done far more than anybody had ever expected that I would have. And it was just like I was at that point where I was like, this is it. And I was really blessed because my wife, she was my fiance at the time. She happened to come in, and she had never actually seen me cry at that point, and I was full broken down and in tears. And she came in and asked what was wrong. I told her, I said, I've had this great career and so on and so forth. And she said, one of the most impactful things, one of the most important things that anybody had ever told me in my life. And it was like a full pivotal moment in my life. And I know that it'll be probably really impactful for whoever listens to this too. She put her arm around me. She said, you know what, um, I support you 100%, 100%. And yes, you have had an amazing career. You've done far more than anybody ever expected of. And then this is what she said that was the shift, the transition for everything. She said, the one thing that I'm curious about though is that would you ever look back on your life and wonder what if? What if I wouldn't have given up on my dream? What if I would have continued pursuing the thing that I'd set out to do when I was 11 years old? What if? And so I sat back and I realized like absolutely I'd probably regret every single day. I'd wonder, what if I would have kept going instead of what if I would have given up? And so what that led me to was to start looking at things in a different way. I started looking at the fact for most of my career, I was so focused on why I wanted to go to the Olympics, why I wanted to have that success, and why I wanted to win that Olympic medal. And it was at around this point that after her taking me through this, that I really started thinking, well, what if I did have that experience? What might happen? What doors might open that might allow me to be able to maybe inspire somebody else to continue on? What difference might I be able to make? Who might I be able to inspire? Who might I be able to impact positively? And so any business owners, this is one of the biggest things, one of the biggest takeaways that all of my business clients, one of the biggest focuses and the biggest shifts that I help them with that transforms their business. It helps them to be able to oftentimes double or even triple their business starting from this foundation. Is it stop being about me and my focus and what I wanted, and it started being about the grander good, the bigger picture, the difference, the impact, the transformation, the people's lives I could change, the people I could help, and the difference I can ultimately make in this world. So with my clients, that big shift is going from, because I know in business, obviously the goal is to be able to generate, increased profits and increased revenue. Like that's a bottom line, obviously. For us to stay in business, we need to make profits and we need to make revenue, right? And but the way I look at it though is that instead of if we focus just purely on that, our end customers, clients will pick up on that. Whereas if we come at everything that we do from our business point of view with the intention to serve, to make that person's life better, to see how we can transform, see how we can, the ripple effect that we can create is the big difference in the impact that and so going back full circle to why I said, why instead of coaching athletes, why I shifted to coaching business owners is because I look at entrepreneurs, I look at business owners, I look at leaders, CEOs as the people who can truly make a difference and can truly transform the world. Much more than one athlete can by me helping them to be able to perform a couple tenths of a second faster in an event and at a big competition. So that's the reason I chose to switch. And so it's just this big impact. I have this whole concept, this idea of unlocking, I think you said it in the intro, the people's of their own Olympian within. And so this whole concept of this what I refer to as like an Olympian movement, where it's like a movement of high performing achievers that go out there to be able to want to make a bigger impact in the world. And that's what I believe CEOs and business leaders, if they take on that mantle of truly wanting to change the world and make a difference, that that will be the guiding light that be able to help them transform their business. And I know that, Todd, as I'm speaking to this, I know that you can probably relate to what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, you and I are so aligned. I mean, this is why, we hit it off from the jump over the years when we first connected and more recently when we reconnected, and you're saying exactly the same things that I say, right? It's like the ripple effect that we're able to have and the impact that we can have through helping other business owners and in a way shifting from that. Even I have my modern marketing principles, which I don't know if you and I have ever even talked about, but one of them, there's five or six, and one of those core principles is being customer centric. And it's the shift from being self centric and ego based and transactional. But no, no, no. You have to flip everything, your whole approach and the frame that you do business through as a customer centric approach of how can we give value first, right? And how can we put the customer at the center of everything that we're doing, from the way that we're speaking to the market in our materials, from the way that you even recruit your employees and speaking to them about the company culture and the mission that you're on. And I think that makes such a huge difference as that fundamental core direction that you're moving things in, as that being the base of what you do versus, trying to make money. And it's like, yes, money is the oxygen. We can't live if we're not breathing, but we're not just here to breathe, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I love that.
Yeah, I also want to just emphasize. First of all, you had me tearing up at one point about your wife's story, and then getting the chills, and it reminded me of that there's like this cartoon I've seen online, this drawing of two guys digging for diamonds, and there he's like 1 inch away, and he turns around to leave, and like he didn't know the diamonds were just one more chip away, and that just that final push, like you said, and the same thing that's what happened for you. But what I want to bring everyone's attention to here and emphasize about Jason is that you're so humble and casual about your accomplishments, the same way that I talk about how I won the town 3-on-3 basketball tournament in 8th grade is how you're talking about winning the Olympics. And it's like, I don't want to brush that as with such a casual conversation. I really want to emphasize for the audience here, like, we're talking to someone who is an Olympic medalist. Like, that's insane. Like, the highest peak level of human performance and achievement, right? Like, going back, centuries of the Olympics. And so, it's like, that part of it, your massive accomplishments and the level of success that you have achieved, right? And that's part of the people that I'm bringing on to this show, is not just the online gurus and newsfeed gurus who regurgitate advice, or they had a quick win one time and turned it into now they want to be a speaker and trainer, but rather the people who have done this for years and decades. And the other thing that, like, this is reminds me of the saying where, like, the Rocky cut scene is like 30 seconds long, but it actually was 4 years of him doing the work. And it's like the same thing where you're like, and you did say it, but it's like, you missed the Olympics 3 times. But really think about what that means. That's 12 years of work in between, throughout this whole process. So it's like, again, it's one of those things that conversationally, it happens very quickly as we're talking. It's like, missed the Olympics 3 times and went through all of that. And it's like, pause. All of that is, think about how long 12 years is, guys, of the hard work and determination and to push through on all that. And then meanwhile, we put a new business initiative out, and if we're 7 days into it, we're like, this isn't working. Can it cancel this? It's like, really putting in the commitment to being successful. And that's just awesome, that you've been able to do that, and that shift, that you help people make. And I think one of the things that you've really helped me with is this resistance, this like, unconscious, subconscious resistance that I've had, these self-limiting beliefs. And for me, I've been a business owner for over 10 years. And so this is not a new struggle for me necessarily. And I've even broken through parts of it in the past myself, but you're never done on the journey, right? And that just was like a major reminder for me over the last year where it's like, okay, you hit a glass ceiling and then you work really hard on yourself and you break through it. And then all of a sudden, you find yourself maybe either slipping back or you just hit the next ceiling. And the magic that you are able to bring to your clients and the people whose lives you touch with clearing that kind of resistance and the identity shift, like a big part of starting a business and then scaling it to that first hire and your first 10 hires, and then you become a manager, and then you become a CEO, and you're really become a business leader. You're no longer the guy who was really great at, numbers, so you were a good accountant. It's like now
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're a business leader with a team of people, and you're not the one who's going into the weeds doing the work. And that is a major identity shift at multiple spots along the journey of, oh, I was handy, and so I started an HVAC company. Well, now you got, 5 trucks out on the road, and you're not one of the guys who's climbing in the ducts anymore. And so, you know, what do those conversations look like with your clients, and what advice do you have for people as they have become, they find themselves in this quote unquote leader's seat, but haven't yet maybe fully recognized and adopted this new identity? Like, what are some tips for adopting that a new identity in this particular case? But I know the tips can apply in all areas of life.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how a lot of what you just said, and a friend of mine, James Wedmore, he's got a saying that next level, next devil, right?
Hmm.
Is like the what got you here won't get you there.
Yeah.
And so that's really what a lot of my focus is with my clients is, and this is something I don't hear very many people talk about. It's like when people think about growing businesses, they think about just all the strategy and all the tactics and all the stuff. But they don't realize is that a lot of what holds them back is this resistance that you talk about. It's like, so this whole shifting. So you talked about identity, which is amazing because it's like, obviously one of my coaches is he often talks about the difference between have, do, be versus be, do, have. You have to be
Hmm.
first, and then you'll be able to do the things in order to have what it is that you want. And the way we do that is by we have to be able to shift at the identity. The challenge is that the brain doesn't want to change. The brain doesn't want to let go of the old identity because that's safe. It knows, it's familiar. Like the brain likes consistency. The brain likes to know what's happening, predictability. And as soon as we start shifting, it gets uncomfortable, and that's where what a lot of what I do with my clients is I help them to be able to release the resistance to a lot of these shifts, release the fears, because it's like basically I use this. I created my own process. I call it the easy speed process, and it comes from actually from my sport. And actually, I do this a little different, Todd. I'm going to ask you is that if I have you ever seen speed skating before? I know there's a
Yeah.
picture behind me. Like, have you ever actually watched long track speed skating before?
On TV during the Olympics, sure, yeah, and maybe it's very possible I was watching you now that I think about it, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you, is that what do you think is some of the things that cause us to slow down or not go as fast as we want?
One of the first things are, are your legs strong enough? Are you physically moving your body fast enough to be skating? I know drafting is another thing, right? Like getting behind someone so there's, the air's not holding you back, and you're more dynamic or whatever.
Yeah, good answers. And don't worry, business owners, I'll bring this back to business in a second. Is that the main things is that obviously we have wind resistance, and then we have friction with the ice. A lot of people don't realize is that when we're skating, we're not actually skating on ice, we're skating on water because of the pressure between our blade and the ice actually melts the ice beneath it. So we're actually gliding on water. And so when I started, we used to talk about our coaches when we'd be doing speed work, we'd talk about this concept of getting easy speed, which is basically getting maximum results with minimal effort.
Say
So,
more.
that's exactly when I started looking at business owners, is that I look how much effort they put in, is that, what if we could help them to, reduce the amount of effort they had to put in and get more results? So, I'm like, well, absolutely. And so I started trying it with some people and found that absolutely this is one of the key components that I haven't come across anybody that looks at it the way that I do, is that releasing resistance. The same thing that holds an athlete back in like me in speed skating, and this whole concept of easy speed is the same thing that holds business owners back. So what is resistance in business? It's like, well, obviously we have to make, as business owners and especially CEOs, have to make a ton of really important decisions. And obviously those decisions can have dramatic effects and big impacts on where their business goes. And so those decisions can be very stressful, obviously, because there is the fear of making the wrong decision. So, but what if there was a way that you could actually you could release the fears around that so you could come to a place of peace so that you're confident in the decision that you make? And that's exactly what I do with my easy speed process. I refer to it as ESP. And some people think that, obviously I do have the extrasensory perception because of the things that come out of our sessions. But easy ESP for me is the easy speed process. And that's what I take people through. And what we
Yeah.
do, so we release resistance in the way of fears, of negative experiences. Say like a business owner has had a negative hire. You talked about expanding. You start off being a solopreneur, and all of a sudden you start hiring. More often than not, I bet most business owners have had bad hires, right?
Yeah.
And so then when they go to hire another one, there's that kind of that small trauma that they had previously about the bad hire. And so that's something that I'm able to help my clients to be able to let go of and release and clear, is that fear of the bad hire, or fear of making the wrong decision, the fear of the negative previous events. And as soon as we start releasing a lot of this stuff, it's 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 a lot easier to make decisions from a place of peace versus a place of fear. And I know that maybe your average listeners here, maybe not so much into quantum mechanics and so on, but this is
We'll get them
something that
there though
is
if they're not yet.
this is something that is important, is the fact that the way the universe first works is that we become where we focus on. One of my mentors, he talks often about, you are where your attention is. And so if your intention is on the negative, you're going to attract more of that negative side, which is also a challenge with us business owners, and especially with CEOs. So because we start thinking about, a concept that I think that you've heard me talk about in the past, is this going back to the whole thing that my wife had brought to me that has merged into multiple different areas, is the what if.
Hmm.
Generally, so what if can be two of the most powerful words in the human language, or they can be two of the most destructive words in the human language. And it's all determined based off of what follows those two words. Most people, when they start thinking, uh, most people, when they're in a negative state, or when they're nervous, or when they're fearful, or when they just have anxiety about something, they're in what I refer to as what if negative. So, what if worst case scenario? They're focused on the worst case scenario. Like even me in my sport, when I went to the starting line at the Olympics, I had that moment of like fear, dread. Have you ever felt that before, Todd? Or if you're
Oh
listening to
yeah.
this, where it's
Yeah.
like, you had something, it's like, oh my gosh, like something, there was something wrong. I had that like instant, like I felt it in here, and it was like just like terror, instant terror. But because of the tools that I was able to develop throughout my career, I was able to stop myself, because I was into the what if negative. I was into the, oh my gosh, what if something happens? What if I fall? What if I slipped? I let my teammates down. I let my whole team down. I let my country down. And there's millions of people that are watching me on TV right now. And all of a sudden, like, going to the starting line. And so I was able to stop that, and I was able to then shift my attention to, like, I literally, I tell myself, this is a strategy that you can use too if you're listening to this, is that if you get into that negative pattern, you just tell yourself to stop. I'll clap my hands. I won't do it now because I don't want to blow up my mic. but I'll clap and I'll say, Jason, stop. And then I'll shift my attention to when I was going to the line, I shifted my attention to what if it works out exactly the way it's meant to?
Mm.
What if everything happens the way it's destined to happen? And I was able to have a really quick release. I took a deep breath and let it go. And then I went to the starting line and everything did end up working out the way it was meant to. So now I have a process because obviously most of you aren't going to be going to the starting line at the Olympics. You have different challenges and different things that you're working through. And so I have evolved what I had did at that point in time to be able to help people release other things and do it in a fast manner, but release it in a way that it's once it's gone. And so that's a big part of what I do now in helping people because it's like you've there is a I actually have a book on my shelf. It's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways. And the way I look at it is that instead of feeling the fear and doing it anyways, what if we can release the fear and do it anyways? Which would be a more an easier way to be able to go through life, to be able to release stuff and move forward, or to have to just fight through and battle through.
That's a great point, and to even tie it back into stuff you were talking about before, so it's like, yes, there's always a part where, like, feel the fear and do it anyway. We're gonna always have areas of life or certain days where we feel that way or certain things we have to do where we feel that way. But that fear and that becomes getting stronger, right? That's the getting stronger to be able to do things when you're afraid anyway. But also in doing so, you are pushing through friction and it's harder to glide. And so back to what you talked about before, releasing the fear instead of feeling the fear and doing it anyway. What if you release the fear? When you release the fear, you're taking your foot off the brake, right? You're reducing the friction and you're becoming more aerodynamic in your action taking. And so tying those two things together to what you said before so beautifully is if you have to feel the fear and push through and be strong, you do it. But as soon as you can release the fear, you're going to be moving that much faster without having to do as much work, right?
Exactly. And to also to close off another thing that I'd kind of left a little bit open is that so the whole concept of the what if negative or worst case scenario.
Yeah,
The
the
thing
other side
that's
of the coin.
yeah, the other thing that a lot of people never come to the point to contemplate, but I realized this is like, is that you're if you're what if negative, you're looking into the future and you're not in the present moment. And obviously, there's no such thing as a future because it doesn't exist. We only have the
Mhm.
present moment. So when we're what if negative, is it factual what we're thinking? The negative stuff that is going through our mind, is it true? Is it actually factual? Is it has it happened? No, it's not real. It's all a figment of our imagination. So here's the thing that I teach my one of the strategies, a quick strategy that I teach my clients to do is that what I did to the start line is the whole stop, and then I shift my attention to instead of what if negative, I shift to what if positive or what if best case scenario. It's like, what if it happens exactly the way it's meant to? What if this launch goes amazing? What if the products, the exact right clients come exactly at the time that I need it to be able to, get this new product off the ground. And start focusing on all the what if positives. Because here's the thing: is it true? Is it a fact? Is any of that like realistic? Is it real? No, it's all still made up. But here's the thing: if you're going to make something up in your head, why not make something that's positive and supports you and helps move you forward versus something that is negative is going to hold you back and make it more challenging. So that whole concept, so that's my, what if positive is something that has really made a huge impact in my clients' lives and just that shift. So now moving forward, so if you're watching this, now moving forward, every single time that you notice you're starting to get into that negative, you're starting to feel negative and getting into that negative emotions or fear or any of that sort of stuff comes up. Now you have a strategy to instantly you can stop yourself and you can shift, you can actually identify the fact I'm in what if negative thinking and I choose to shift my thinking to what if positive, best case scenario, and you can actually move from there. And that alone will actually have a big effect on your business forward.
Yeah, and this is all great because the whole premise of this show is to help the business leaders who are watching and listening to be able to make better, more empowered decisions. And I think, the experts that come on are doing a great job of talking about how to think about and make decisions about their area of expertise. What you're talking about here is how you can make better decisions as a business leader, regardless of the topic, because this is a decision making process that helps, right? And I think, I took some notes here and it's like, all right, first, if you're feeling anxious or scared about it, you need a pattern interrupt. For you, it's clapping and stop. Like when you get all that trash talk in your head, stopping it right away. Just try to hit your foot on the brakes in there and just try to silence it and shift your attention to something more positive. And I think another great thing that you said was shifting your state, your emotional state from feeling anxious or scared to being peaceful, and being able to make decisions from a state of being peaceful is going to be, you're going to have a clearer mind and make a better decision. So being able to get yourself into that peaceful state, and then describing and visualizing, like, not the negative what ifs, but the positive what ifs. Okay, the best case scenario, here's what our intentions are that we want to happen, and imagining and feeling into the positive outcomes that you're going to create. And then also along the way, like, if you feel the fear and you have to push through, do it, but figure out ways to release the fear so that you can have less friction. And that's like shifting gears, right? And being able to go faster without having to push your foot so hard on the pedal. And that's just such a great process and great tips for making decisions in all areas of life, right? But to be able to do it from that state and through that exercise is amazing, Jason. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
There's an author, his name's Joseph Murphy. He wrote a book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And there's a quote in there that I love, and I'm going to butcher it. I don't remember it exactly, but it's like he comments on, he states, never finish a negative thought. Never finish a negative thought. You always want to make sure that as soon as you find yourself in a negative thought, you stop yourself immediately, and you can identify it, and you can actually say, I'm in a negative thought right now, and I choose to shift my attention to positive thoughts. So shift what if positive. And that's something that is extremely powerful. But and obviously, and I know it's beyond the scope of our time together today, but we were talking about the whole next level, next devil, be able to get through that next level in the ceiling, is that sometimes there's things that you can't just shift like that in that simple. And so that's where I use my full easy speed process to be able to walk people through and different strategies. I've trained in over 13 different disciplines of transformation, of release, even energy work and stuff too. And I basically, from the learnings of all those 13 different things, I've kind of brought everything together into my ESP, my easy speed process.
And it is
And
nothing short of magic. I can personally attest to. I can't even describe it to people. You just have to experience it yourself. The way that Jason can literally transform, just pull you out of the problems that you were experiencing, and really like put you into a place where you immediately feel like, I'm free and liberated to do this next thing. It's
yeah,
crazy. It's crazy.
it's it's such a blessing for that I was able to basically be gifted this. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how I really came up with it, but obviously it came from somewhere. I'm grateful to the universe, because it's like, I don't even know how I do it. It's kind of, a lot of people refer to it as magic, and it's like, if people choose to believe in magic, then that's great. And I love being able to do it. I love being able to serve. And there's nothing better than helping somebody to be able to break through and go to that next level. Because that's the thing with business, is that when we come up against something, is that sometimes it can be something that might not even be a huge thing, but it's adding that resistance, and it's actually stopping you or blocking you. It could be standing in the way, slowing you down, or just like actually physically stopping you from taking the action you need. And once you're able to release that, it opens the doors to be able to get and continue moving forward. And then eventually something new will come up, and that's what we just do. We release the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and allow people to keep growing and expanding and improving.
Yeah, and I mean, it resonates with me too as you're describing those things, and those like past, quote unquote traumas, like these little bad mistakes that kind of build up and we don't notice is, that's where you can be at a point where, you made bad this you maybe you didn't even, you made the best decision you could with the information you had and the lack of experience at the time. And so a lot of people that I see who don't, in my world, I see a lot of people on the marketing and advertising side and they will try a particular method of advertising, and they will either try and do it themselves, and obviously they're not properly qualified to be doing something as advanced as advertising, and it will not work out the first time, and so they will, or they maybe hire someone, and they tried to go the cheap route because they didn't want to invest in the best right out of the gate, and it doesn't work out, and so then they say, well, that didn't work, let's move on, and we're not going to do that again. And now you're missing out, like, for, let's say, Facebook ads, for example. If a company tries Facebook ads and it doesn't work out the first time, and then they never do that again because they were either burned by someone who didn't do it well, or they didn't do it well themselves without realizing it, the impact that you could have from doing Facebook ads well can blow up your business, can help you reach and impact way more people, but you've felt, you have this negative association. Or maybe it's that you've got a great team, but now you need to hire managers so you could take your business to the next level, and you tried hiring a manager and that person didn't work out well. So now you subconsciously feel this limitation of, well, hiring managers doesn't work. Even if you're not saying those words directly to yourself, that's the underlying feeling that's holding your subconscious back. And being able, that's where Jason's so great, is like identifying those things that you might not see, right? If identifying the blind spots that you have and being able to unravel them and release them. So it's like, oh, that's why we weren't growing, because we weren't making good hiring decisions, because we made a bad hiring decision and kept reliving that bad mistake over and over and not moving forward. And so being able to identify those blind spots and resolve the blind spots is something else that you're just incredible at, and is a huge difference maker for CEOs as they grow their business. So uh, you just, I could go on. I have so many notes here that would take us the whole rest of the day of questions. So maybe, if I'm lucky enough to have you back on another episode, we can follow those through. But I'm so grateful for your time today, Jason. If this resonated with our audience, and I really hope it did, where can they connect with you to help them get your magic in their corner as well, so they can make their better decisions and unlock these next levels for themselves?
Yeah, thanks for that, Todd. And realistically, like I don't have a lot of availability. Obviously I'm in kind of high demand, and so and I've always worked basically via word of mouth, which I know in this day and age may sound kind of crazy. So you can, I do have a website that I don't use a lot. You can see a little bit about me at jasonparker.co, jasonparker.co, and that's Jason is Jason. And otherwise you can just email me at jason@jasonparker.co. And yeah, and we can have a conversation and just see if I might be able to find, you know, a way that we might be able to help you go to that next level.
Yeah.
It's fun. I love the people that I work with. I'm very particular about who I work with too. I don't just work with
Well, I'm
anybody.
flattered.
Yeah, exactly. You should be. Yeah, I find people have to be really aligned in wanting to make a true impact in the world.
Yeah.
And so if you're somebody that truly wants to make a big impact, somebody that you just feel like something is holding you back, something has you stuck and you don't know what it is, absolutely, feel free to reach out, and let's get on a Zoom and just see if there might be a way that I can help you release that through that.
Yeah, and I can't say enough great things about Jason. Our work together has been phenomenal, and this is our first baby step of me getting him into more leveraged situations to help more people. But Jason, thank you so much, guys. If today's conversation gave you something valuable, please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And if you want more leadership insights like this, head over to thegrowthsuite.com/leader for additional resources. Make sure you connect with Jason at jasonparker.co. And until next time, think clearly, make educated decisions, and lead with confidence.